Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I've done a video with this Series 2A, but this is my personal project and I've been busy with other jobs, so this has been pushed back a bit. But finally at a stage now where we're not too far off getting it complete. I just need to make up the brake and clutch hoses or pipes from the reservoir here, bleed all that through, and then going to build a new wiring harness, and I've got one more fuel pipe to do, then body panels, and pretty much done. But what this video is going to be about is some of the problems I came across with the shield up galvanised bulkhead. I made a first impressions video quite a while back, got quite good response from that, but since then when I've gone to fit it and start adding things, I found more and more problems, and the customer support wasn't exactly great, but I'll talk you through all that. But yeah, first off we'll start with the problems then. So first off I'll just comment on the holes or penetrations, whatever you want to call them. With it being a bulkhead that's more of a generic purpose, it's to fit many different years of models. As you can expect, there's a lot of holes that I don't actually need, and in some cases there's holes that I've had to drill because I do need them, and also where they, I think, galvanised inside, the holes have gotten smaller, they've needed re-drilling, but that's no big deal. If we come down to the doorpost, I'll show you now. So we can see here we've got this steel plate, that's to hold the door seal, and when I went to fit the inner sill to get everything lined up, you can't really see it too well, but before that there was at the bottom of that, so I couldn't actually fit this into place. That was the first problem with fitting this inner sill. And then secondly is, it's hard to see, but this bolts through. There's two bolts inside here, and that should be secured basically inside the A-pillar. But what I've got here is that there's a plate inside here. It's been cut too long at the factory or something. Instead of fixing it, someone's hammered that plate down, welded that, and it was actually blocking up that hole. So I've had to re-drill it. I'm never going to be able to get a nut on the other side because of where the plate is, and I'm going to have to end up just using one long bolt and joining up with the other side, the A-pillar, on that side there. And this problem with the door seal retainer here, that was common to both sides. This little piece inside the A-pillar, that was only on my passenger side. And so from there I got the bulkhead lined up in the correct position, all my measurements were correct, and I decided to hang the door. You see it's closing there, but that there we're about 10mm high. With the bottom of the tub about 10mm high. With the bottom of the bulkhead we're about 10mm high, and here you can see that point there should line up with that point again, about 10mm. So that's because these holes for the hinges have been put 10mm too high, and the way these are retained on the shielder is that you get a metal tab inside here, pushes through there, and the bolt will hold on to there. To move that down, I'm going to have to make this bolt hole bigger, and also pull the clip down so it's not going to have so much to hold on this side. I'm hoping I can get 10mm out of it, but it's going to be very tight as to where that happens. If not, then I'm going to have to live with the fact that the door doesn't quite line up. I know the bodywork's not great, but shut lines and things are things I'm quite pedantic about. See, that's actually not all even up, it's closing up at the top, and that's because I've just slackened the bolts here to drop the door back that way, just because when it's in its proper position it won't actually latch, so I've just basically dropped it down a bit to latch. But otherwise, yeah, you can see that again, problem with the bulkhead. And I've got the same on the other side. I've not fitted the wings yet, but I'm hoping they're going to be okay. But as we come around the front, you can see I've got this support here, and that's to support the bulkhead. And you can see this rod is bent, should be straight. And what they've done is on this plate they've cut this edge too long or got the angle wrong, and that's actually pointing off towards into the engine. I've compared it with my old bulkhead, and off the top of my head I think it's about 20mm too long on this side. So if you imagine this was 20mm shorter, we'd stick it in like that and I'd have a straight bar down onto my support here. Again, another issue that I raised with Terrain Tech parts and Shielder, which, as I'll talk about later, they didn't really resolve. But yeah, we'll walk around the bulkhead a bit more. And this here, I'll come back to this side first actually, because one of the reasons I hung the door is because when I couldn't get answers from Shielder and Tech Terrain parts, I came across a forum where a lot of people were saying that the angle that this had been bent at here was wrong, and that it was fouling on the door, or the windscreen was then fouling on the door at the top. So I've just hung this to make sure that the angle looks okay, and luckily, touch wood, we're okay on that one, but it's something to be aware of. People have had problems with that in the past, and if you haven't open up this again, basically put it back more like that, it's a big job, big undertaking, especially when you've bought a new bulkhead that should be more or less ready to go. But yeah, round onto this side then now, and yeah, fitting this steering box was fun. You can see there that should be going up the centre of the hole, and if I come back a bit, I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but I've actually had to twist this a bit just to be able to get my steering column up into that hole. And when I measured that, I think we're about 30mm off where it should be, and that's, in my opinion, more than any tolerance would be. That's a problem that's going to be repeated on a lot of things. It's not a tolerance, it's that they've got the measurement wrong. And so I'm hoping that when I sit in the Land Rover, it's not going to be noticeable that the steering wheel's coming up at a bit of an angle. I think it should be okay, you can get away with it. But yeah, it's something for you to notice, and it's not really a hole you can make bigger because, as you know, you've got the foam seal around it, and you'd have to have a custom seal made up and then a plate to go over that. So also one to bear in mind. So after finding out about these problems, I took up with Tech Terrain Parts. They're the people who I bought the bulkhead from, and at first they said to me that they will contact Shielder and wait for a response to get back to me. I think I waited 2 or 3 weeks, contacted them on a weekly basis, and they showed me the threads where they were emailing Shielder and Shielder weren't getting back to them. And eventually, after about a month, Shielder got back to their distributor. Very long lead time, I think, to get a reply. What they said was for this door pillar where the door seal goes, and this is what they said in the email, that it's not a big deal to take a small slitting disc with the angle grinder and cut it off and then paint it with a zinc rich primer. At my expense, of course, they weren't willing to pay for that. And then they said that they make it 2 or 3mm bigger to give you more room to get your fingers in. I think instead of millimeters, someone's been working in centimeters. And with regards to the steering column and the door, they just refused to acknowledge that was an issue with them. They said they'd never heard of that before, even though if you look at the forums, there's plenty of people with those same problems. And so Shielder said there wasn't really any issue, everything was resolvable, and that they weren't going to do anything. So then I got onto Tech Terrain and I said, all the reworking, would they be willing to offer at least a partial refund, because it's more time, and to retouch up the paint, etc, etc. And their response to me was that their profit margin was so small on it that they couldn't offer me a partial refund, and that they couldn't offer me a full refund because I'd already fitted it on the vehicle. So I'm going to let you make of that what you wish, but I don't think I'll be buying another one. There's other brands with much better reputations, maybe a little bit more expensive, but when you take into account the cost of your time and ease of fitting it, things like that, I think the bit extra you pay with the more with the companies with better reputation, it's definitely well worth it. So next time I do one, I'll be going down that route. But yeah, drop a comment if you've had similar problems or maybe different ones. It'd be nice to discuss that with someone else. And make sure you like and subscribe if you found this useful. If you're thinking about buying one, at least you know now of the problems I've had. I've made it fit, it's not impossible, it just does need a little bit of extra work and it might not be 100% perfect, but that's a choice you can make when you're deciding to buy one. But thank you very much.